So I want to say to the military men, drop your anger. You don't have to live a life of so-called post-traumatic stress disorder. You could be free, but you got to drop the anger, beginning with mama first. Your post-traumatic stress disorder is not post-traumatic stress disorder. It's overreacting to situations. And you've been doing that since you were a kid because you have anger. And your anger came from your mother. And until you forgive her, it's not going to get better. We have the best counseling service on this side of heaven. You might need, I recommend one, maybe two, a follow-up. But other than that, you can be free. But a lot of people like to do more than that. It's up to you. But counseling doesn't take all lifetime. If you're ready to overcome, it doesn't take a lifetime. So if you want counseling, family, individual counseling by phone, FaceTime, a walk-in, go to rebuildingtheman.com, rebuildingtheman.com, or call 800-411-BOND, 800-411-2663 to make an appointment. And I want to tell you in advance, only because some of you are giving my the schedule a hard time, because you want it and you want it now. My schedule is so booked. But we still try to get you in, and if somebody cancel, we let you know. And so be patient. We get to everyone. 800-411-2663 or rebuildingtheman.com for counseling. I want to discuss something that I saw on 60 Minutes this past Sunday. And again, I don't normally watch 60 Minutes because I can't tell if they're telling the truth or not. And I remember 60 Minutes used to be the thing for Sunday afternoons. But now I turn it on to see what the stories, because they present the 3 stories, sometimes 2 or 3 stories they're going to talk about. And this Sunday, one of the stories that they were talking about was something called post-traumatic stress disorder. And so I thought, well, that sounds interesting. Let me watch that and see what that's about. And some of you have heard of post-traumatic stress disorder, right? Let me just tell you in advance, no such thing. No such thing as PTSD. No such thing as post-traumatic stress disorder. It's a cover-up, another word that's being used by the intellectuals, because the intellectuals have no common sense. It's another word that's being used to cover up evil. And by covering it up and giving it a fake name like racism and all that crap, human beings never get better, those who believe in that. They never get better. You get medicated. You don't get better. You get medicated after lying to you. This is from the Mayo Clinic. The definition of it, I guess. Post-traumatic stress disorder, better known as PTSD, is a mental health condition that's triggered by a terrifying event. Symptoms may include flashbacks, nightmares, and severe anxiety, as well as uncontrollable thoughts about the events. Now, those things do happen when you overreact as a little kid to your mother, and this relates to every human being on earth. It doesn't matter color, male or female, where you live or don't live, who you blame or don't blame. Every kid overreact to mama, and the moment they overreact, they enter into hell. They stop identifying with present, with the truth, and they go right into hell, which is the imagination, and they identify with hell. And for the rest of their lives, until some men and women catch on that, hey, something's wrong here, and they stop overreacting. They stop overreacting. And the moment they stop overreacting, the devil, evil spirits, the possession of the mind and emotion will be taken away from you. And you'll be free. You'll be free. And they said the condition is triggered by a terrifying event. That's true. But the terrifying event is the anger and emotions of the mother. She's already been traumatized in childhood. She stayed with it, and she traumatized the children. But it's the terrifying event is the overbearing, the evil of the mother. And it's not her, but it's the spirit of evil that made a home in her. And she traumatized the innocence of the children. And so it is a terrifying event because it takes you from reality and puts you into your imagination, which is an illusion, not even real. And it said the symptoms include flashback, nightmares, and severe anxiety. 100% true. But you are overreacting to evil, and it's just you're giving yourself over to evil even more so. Flashback, the devil reminds you of the past, which doesn't exist, is an illusion, but when you fall for the thought about the past and the emotion that comes with it, you believe that the past does exist, so you overreact again. You think it's still happening, and so you overreact again. But it's not still happening. There is nothing to look back to. But you have memories that are not your own and that come from evil, and you think they're your own, and you consistently overreact because you're having a flashback instead of realizing those are not my thoughts. That's not me remembering that. When that happened then. That's not happening now. Because you're not working on yourself. You're angry. And from that become nightmares, anxiety, and all that is still overreacting to evil. It's not even you, as well as uncontrollable thoughts about the event. Absolutely. Because you think your thoughts are yours, and they are not. I'm telling you the truth. They're not your thoughts. And that's why people are constantly running from them. They're trying to find something to do. I'll get another degree and another degree and another degree. I'll have a family. I'll start a family. I'll get this job or that job and make this amount of money or that amount of money. I'll get a 3-bedroom house instead of a 2-bedroom house. You're running away from the thoughts about the events because you think that they're your own. And then and there are some around the world now who are saying, you know what, let me be still. Let me do the silent prayer and see what's going on here. And then they are overwhelmed by those thoughts because they can now see the thoughts that they've been running away from, and the beginning is now happening. You're overcoming. The thoughts are not your own. You're not your thoughts, and your thoughts are not you. And they're not from God. And stop running away from them and run toward them and go through them. It was like I was told about the buffaloes. When the buffaloes see a windstorm coming, they run toward it, run right through it. That's what you got to do with the thoughts. And stop running away from them. Don't run the other direction. Run toward the storm and tell the storm to be still. And it will. As Christ said on the cross, it is finished. It is done. Everything is done. You can lay your weapon down. In reality, except for self-defense, if somebody's going to try to hurt you physically, there is never a reason to fight. Lay your weapons down and turn the ships around. There is never a reason to fight. The fight is over. It's not something, it is done. It is finished. There is never a reason to fight with yourself, no thoughts, or with other people and what they think and their thoughts. The devil needs you to fight because that is a distraction. It's another reaction, an overreaction that's keeping you away from reality. It is done. It is finished. Evil has been defeated. It has no more power. And you've been bought and paid for, and it's okay to come back home to the Father. You got to come back to the Father. And so as the story goes, according to CBS, 2 million Americans served in Afghanistan and Iraq. And that's why I really want to focus on this. I want to really say to the men who have fought in wars, Afghanistan, Iraq, and whatever else war you fought in, and you came back home and they said you were traumatized, and so now you have PTSD. You were already traumatized before you went to war. You were traumatized by your mother, so you were already overreacting to situations. Inside yourself, the imagination, feeling, and outside, overreacting to what others tried to do to you. So when you went to war, it was just a continuation of what you were already doing, and you didn't know it. Because if you had been told as a kid, don't overreact, don't get angry, you would have gone to war and you would have defeated the enemy at the war, and you would not have been traumatized at all because you understood. You've been able to see what was going on. So I want to say to the military men, drop your anger. You don't have to live a life of so-called post-traumatic stress disorder. You could be free, but you got to drop the anger, beginning with mama first. CBS is reporting 2 million Americans served in Afghanistan and Iraq. At least 600,000 have been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. That happened before you went into the military. And just like in civilian life, you were overreacting to situations. You overreact to another real bad situation, I guess, in the military, because you're seeing people's legs get cut off and killed right in front of you, and you got to kill somebody. So you're just overreacting. It's a continuation of what you already were. Has someone told you beforehand, hey, don't be mad at mama. Mama can't help it. Or your dad is protecting you from mama, you'll be just fine. You'll be conscious. You'll be present, and you will know it is done. It is finished. So to the military men, don't accept post-traumatic stress. Know that you have overreacted and you're in the darkness of your imagination and you believe in lies. All thoughts are all lies all the time. Thoughts and emotions are lies. That's why the devil pushed them. That's why the devil pushed emotions. Why do you think the devil used women to push emotions like now they're going north? You don't cater to my emotions. You don't care how I feel. You don't love me because you don't listen. You don't this. What the? And they give it fancy names like post-traumatic stress disorder or racism or anti-Semitism or white supremacism, some type of isms, because it covers up evil. And then you identify with the fancy name, but you don't want to identify with evil. If they call it evil, you stop identifying with it. But if they give it a fancy name, like PDS, that just sound beautiful. That just sound like something you're stuck with, and you don't mind being stuck with, even though it's not comfortable, even though it has fear. And they give you medication. They say, oh, now you feel better, but you don't. You're just high. But you're not feeling any better. Because now you've been denting down. You can't even face reality. So to the men of the military, don't believe it. Drop your anger. I promise you'll be fine. But you got to forgive your mama like every human being. It doesn't matter rich or poor, black or white, male or female. All must return to the Father if you want to be free. And what it means to return to the Father, you got to forgive your mothers from turning you away from the Father. Eve turned Adam away from the Father. And that is happening to every child that is born through the woman today. Because the evil of Eve, which is now passed through all women, hate the love of God and hate the image and hate men. So to the men and women, to the men who are in the military, I forgot women going to me. What are women doing in there? What the? Forgive your mothers. Men and women, forgive your mothers. Post-traumatic stress disorder is fake. The name is fake, but the spirit behind it it's happening, but it has no power. But you think it does. All right? Drop it, give it a try. Prove me wrong. And if you can always, I guess you can, once you wake up, you can't go back. But you wake up, you can't go back. I started saying you can go back to your hell. But once you overcome hell, there's nothing to go back to. So to move on with the story that I saw in 60 Minutes, this is from CBS. So I want you to tell all your post-traumatic stress disorder friends it's fake. It's not real. It's evil. You're possessed in the imagination, dark spirits. And the light of God will destroy the darkness. It will destroy it. And it started with mama. It didn't start with the military, all right? This is from CBS. Marine veteran Chuck Rothenberry's trauma from war impacted his family. The couple's oldest, Christopher, tried to help his dad and shield his sisters. As his responsibility grew, so too did the stress. And he says he attempted suicide when he was 12. Watch this from 60 Minutes.
About 600,000 Americans came home diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. And what we discovered is that children very often suffer from the same symptoms.
I was just worried about a lot of different things. And it kind of evolved into kind of like a helplessness.
It's taken a long time to hear what I've caused with my family. You know, being in a fog of symptoms. It's not like a cold where you know you're sick, you can take your temperature. But because the way it happens inside your mind, I think everyone, or a lot of folks feel, I'm not crazy, you're crazy. And it takes a while to fight through and recover before you even have a concept of how bad it was.
Not true. He didn't do that to the family. Before he went to the military, he was already screwed up by his mother. And while he was in the military, his wife screwed up his children. He didn't have anything to do with that. It was already done. And the wife sitting there looking like Satan, pretending she's innocent. She's not. She's not innocent. That was done before that man got home. And yes, it was done to him when he was a kid by his mother. He went over to the military, overreacted to the situations over there. But when he came back home, Christopher was already screwed up. Because his mother didn't know how to deal with it. She doesn't have love. She doesn't have patience. She doesn't have... And she's sitting there looking so innocent. The devil's done the damage. And now the devil's sitting there looking like it had nothing to do with it. It happened in the military. No, it didn't. It was just an addition to what had already happened in the military. It's like when you are born into a family, you're screwed up in the family. Now you go out and you start meeting other people. They meet you. You were already screwed up. They didn't do that to you. And the son is overreacting because he has the mother's spirit. And speaking about her son, Liz Rothenberry said, he was becoming almost like my husband. He was becoming almost like my husband. Every mother made the son her husband. Even if she got a husband in the house, she'll make the son her husband. And she'll run the husband out of the house and make the son her husband. He was becoming almost like my husband. This is that boy's mama, according to CBS. There were times where he couldn't be able, there was times where he wouldn't be able to go to school because he was so stressed internally from everything happening. And I don't think he knew how to process it and understood it and understand it. He didn't. He didn't know how to deal with the hell that his mother had passed on to him. And she made him her husband. Every mother, except for those who are overcoming, make sons their husbands. And they blame it on the fathers or somebody else. Isn't that amazing? Think about that. And the intellectuals lied to you. And they put a fancy name on it. And you don't recognize, I'm being controlled by evil here. I think it's me. It sounds like me. It feels like me. If you can see that it's not you, you can be free. Or you can go the wide road of the intellectuals. People with degrees are evil. They have no common sense. They have no love. They have no idea what they're talking about. And they don't care because they love their intellectual. They love the intellect, and they're being intellectual. They love evil, and they're helping keep you in hell. Do what you want with it, but I'm telling you the truth. There is a way out. This is about wives. This is from media. Being the spouse of a PTSD sufferer isn't easy. Veterans with PTSD get divorced twice as much as vets with the PTSD symptom. The wife is lying. She's lying. Watch this from 60 Minutes.
Shannon Foote told us she would be supermom while her husband Denver was away, but she struggled, working, living with her in-laws, raising her son, and watching Denver's tour extended.
I don't think the amount of time that he's been over there is fair.
Like many other wives we've met, she's also getting help for depression.
I wonder how common that is among the other wives.
Everyone I've talked to is really pretty common.
People don't recognize the struggle that the families go through and the amount of support that they need. You know, if you have met a family that has a veteran and you notice that a spouse isn't present, don't be afraid to reach out a little more.
Oh, Lord.
Don't be afraid to
She's doing this for the thrill.
And understand that PTSD affects the entire family.
Absolutely.
She's doing that for the thrill, the tears and all that. The hell is in her. And the husband had nothing to do with it. She was already that way. Her mama did it to her. Because if these women didn't have anger, and let's say the husband went off to the military, they would still deal with the children and the wife, and their life perfectly. But they're already angry. They're already stressed, thanks to their mama and the lack of father to protect them from evil, from their mothers. There's a way out. That's why I'm telling you this. Drop the anger. All you gotta do is drop the anger. Stop calling thoughts yours. Stop calling emotions you. Stop loving the thrill of feeling that, bad or good. They're both evil, right? But drop the thrill. Every human being must be born again of the Father. Otherwise, you're going to live in your hell, and intellectuals are going to give you all these fake ideas of what it is. Drop the anger. And women, drop the anger. Stop loving evil. Stop being the gates of hell for the devil. The gates of hell is through the woman. To the veterans, I want y'all to know your post-traumatic stress disorder is not post-traumatic stress disorder. It's overreacting to situations. And you've been doing that since you were a kid because you have anger. And your anger came from your mother. And until you forgive her, it's not going to get better. And you're not to blame for your wife and how they feel. Their situation came from their mother. They were already like that before you met them. So don't let your wife tell you, oh, you stressed me out. You this. No, you didn't. They were already screwed up. And so you have two screwed up people trying to make life work, relationships work, and it doesn't. All you do is fight. because you're trying to get something from each other that you can't get. Drop the anger, forgive your mother, and then whatever happened in the military will disappear as well. I'm not a doctor, but medication will not solve spiritual issues. It's a spiritual battle. So I gave you this thing from 60 Minutes, right? And this is about wives. That's why I stopped there, right, Sean? I did wives. This is about crime. This is from research.va.gov. A new VA study finds that veterans with PTSD compared to those without are about 60% more likely to have justice system involvement. Watch this from 60 Minutes.
We reported on veterans living in Texas who had returned from war with PTSD and broken the law. We met Kevin Thomas, a Marine who had served in Iraq. 6 months later, Thomas returned to his family in Houston.
I started drinking heavily, and certain symptoms of PTSD kicked in. I didn't know what was going wrong with me.
He lost his job and his family's trust. He was angry all the time. Eventually, he hit his wife. It was felony assault.
I was angry about unfinished business in Iraq. I wanted to go back in.
When he's a little bit older, what are you going to tell him about your experience?
I'm going to tell him that my experience and my career in the Marines was great. It's the best thing I ever did in my life.
The most important thing for the nation to remember is that these veterans of these wars, their children and their spouses are still living through this. And that is something that none of us should ever forget.
What a loser. That's a loser guy right there. Why do you want to remember hell? And it's not, his anger is not because of unfinished business in Iraq, wherever he was. It's because he has not forgiven his mother. He has not forgiven his father. He has not returned to the father. And when he went over there, he overreacted to the situation over there because he was already overreacting before he went there. The devil wants you to overreact. The devil cannot control a person who does not overreact. God said to be still and overcome. The devil says to overreact and stay in hell. And that stupid reporter is working on behalf of the devil. To the veterans, drop your anger. Forgive your mother. Start where it began. It began through the womb. It began in the home. It did not begin in Iraq. Now, it's up to you. If you want to stay believing that and suffer for the rest of your life, you can, of course. But if you want to be free, I don't care what happened in Iraq, drop the anger, and then the memories will start to clear up and everything because Satan can't use that against you. And he hit his wife. He hit his wife because he couldn't deal with the anger in the wife. That's why. If you drop the anger, you don't have to hit your wife, no matter what hell she has in her. It's amazing. And the wife probably just looking all innocent like she had nothing to do with it. It's not me. I was good. I was good. No, you were not. So that's the story with that. And I want to just say to the veteran, and I counsel with a lot of veterans, so that's another reason I want y'all to know, is that you too, like me and every human being, as Christ said, you must be born again of the Father. Your issue did not start in the military. It did not start when you went to war. It started when you were born through the woman. Forgive your mothers. They could not help themselves, men and women. They could not help themselves. Forgive the father, because you become like what you hate. You're just like your mothers. You have the mentality and the emotion of the woman, which is the emotion of evil. Forgive, and that will be taken away from you, and you'll be free.